In this episode of Vintage Audio Review, I'm going to check out Tucson's only vintage hi-fi store, the Hi-Fi Workshop. So we're going to go on in and see what they got. All right, so this is what the inside looks like, kind of just a rough tour. We'll take a look at more of the other items here in a minute, but it kind of just gives you a lay of the land, so to speak. And that's Deanna. She came over to check it out. She is the only female audiophile I know, and she's been in a couple of the videos. I don't think you can really see her that much with the bright light in the background, but anyway, we'll come over and look at some of this stuff in detail. So we've got a bit of different kinds of gear here. You can see we have a pretty neat JVC receiver there. Haven't seen one of those before. It even has power meters. Then is our Pioneer RT909, and it's yours for the right price. And we have an Akai turntable. Looks like a Sony STR7035 receiver. And that looks like another Sony receiver there on the bottom. Back we have some Dynaco gear. What is that? A PAT 5 and a Stereo 150. Technics turntable above it. We have a few pieces of Luxman gear. And that looks like a Technics turntable, like one I used to own back in the day. Nope, that is not the one I owned back when I used to DJ. We have a nice Pioneer integrated amp, another Pioneer tuner, and an equalizer from Realistic. You can kind of see some of the speakers, quite a variety of speakers, some Polks, Biovox. I'm not familiar with them. Unless that is Biovox, is it Danish? Bang & Olufsen, yeah, okay. That's Bang & Olufsen's speaker, some Technics speakers, Infinity, a little bit of a variety of gear, for sure. Coming around, we have a Macintosh 1700 receiver, and it looks like it's just FM only. You also see some speakers up there, Optimus, and some Bose speakers, some small Polk speakers. And then we have a Sansui 771 receiver, another Luxman receiver, and a Sansui. Is that the Reverb? Oh yeah, that's the Reverb RA500 Reverb effect generator. And let's see, what else do we got? All kinds of biddies. Here we have a Pioneer QX8000A. That's a quadraphonic receiver. We have a Rega Planar 3 turntable and a pair of custom-built vacuum tube preamps. Panasonic DVD player and a Kenwood. Oh, it's a nice looking Kenwood KR8010 receiver that has that great vintage look. And a small little Tivoli radio. That's kind of cute. And you can just see some more speakers up above. Those are NHT VT1C speakers, the tall ones, and then a Paradigm CC100 center channel speaker, very reasonably priced. You can see a few more speakers. Those are the Optimus Pro LX5 2s and a Bose Inner Audio 2000 speaker. You saw the other half there. Then we have a Kenwood KT7300 tuner, a Realistic. What is that? A Realistic STA 720 receiver, and that's 25 watts per channel. And then we have a STA 52 Realistic receiver at 12 watts per channel, and both those are under $200. I haven't ran into any Teledyne gear, but we have one right here. That's a Teledyne RA777, 40 watts per channel into 8 ohm loads. All right, we have a Baby Advant 3 speaker, and that's $169 a pair. And then the Teal CS2 three-way speakers, that guy right there. And that's coming in at about $700 a pair in case you're interested. They do sell records here, some new, some used, and CDs as well, just kind of a variety. So if I zoom out a little bit, we can see the Epicure or EPI Model 20 loudspeakers, and I'm not sure they're for sale.
Okay, so I love the sound of them. And I don't do this often, but I really want to keep them because I love the sound of them and they kind of fit perfect with the record stands. So they make the perfect sort of house speakers. And I'm debating whether or not I should keep a house system over there. That's not for sale. But if somebody really wants these and has been looking for a decade or more for them, and there's a full-on story about it, maybe some tears, I might sell them. But as of now, I like them too much. They're not going anywhere. Oh, so it's just a two-way, but you have one that's facing directly in front of you, and then one that's sort of bouncing up and perhaps down. I don't know how that would work out. And, you can go on and on about listening positions, speaker positions, optimization of the room, all of that. However, these kind of sound good everywhere that I put them, and that's why I like it. I love speakers where they sound good anywhere in the room, and this is one of those. So I don't know. I may never get rid of them. But what am I going to do with all the speakers I have in home? Will my wife allow me to sneak in another pair of speakers? That's probably why I have a shop.
Here we have a Sansui R7 receiver. It's kind of a cute little guy. And a pair of Sony speakers. You can't see what's the left of it because the lighting is just not very good, but they have a Denon DR365R and an NAD 5220, which is a CD player. And we have a few more pieces of gear. There's a Denon receiver. And then we have an Insignia, which I think was a Best Buy brand. Looks like a receiver. And at the very bottom, we have a Hafler 9300 power amp and a 945 preamp. And here is a Harman Kardon T35C belt drive turntable. It's got controls on the front, which is nice, and it's just something you don't see with the knobs. Here we have a Pioneer SX636 25 watts per channel receiver that has that nice vintage look. And above it, there's a Yamaha CD player. Here we have an Onkyo integrated amp. So if you were trying to complete your 90s ADCOM system, here is the Ace 515, which is a power conditioner kind of device, and it's kind of cool looking, and it's very reasonably priced. Here is a cool looking Akai GX220 reel-to-reel deck, and you can't really see it very well, so I'm going to bring up a picture that I took of it because of the background lighting was not very good. And it could be yours for $239. And here's a Denon audio control center, a preamplifier, and below it is the matching amplifier, which is the Denon model POA-1500 power amplifier. So this is a Fisher MT885 turntable. Looks like it's linear tracking. And then we have a Sony receiver. It is the STR AV910, so it's an AV receiver. Here is our host of the Hi-Fi workshop, Justin, who's doing a repair. What are you repairing there? Looks like a power amp of some sort.
It's a Rotel 8909? Yeah, 8909 or 8908, sorry. Nice AB power amp, fun to work with.
I appreciate you opening up. You're not open on Tuesdays generally, just so you can get some repair work done. It's basically just you here, right? Or do you have some help occasionally?
It's just me. It's just me at this point. Strange thing about technicians is they like working on what they like working on. And so it's kind of hard to get somebody who wants to work on a little bit of everything. I mean, and it's hard to find technicians who are able to show up to work 8 hours a day. Most technicians are pretty getting up there in age, and they all want to retire. I think there's a handful of us younger, and by younger, I mean like under the age of 60 technicians who really know how to work on this stuff. Yeah, and like I said, any of the available technicians in Tucson right now are retirement age, and they really don't want to commit to coming in for 8 hours, 4 or 5 days a week to work on this stuff. So I'm lucky if I can find somebody who can come in a couple hours a week. And so the way I've managed this is I'll be open for 4 days to the public, accepting incoming repairs. And then on the days where I'm not open, I'll be here actually getting the repairs done. But I'm usually working like 6 or 7 days a week.
So Hi-Fi Workshop is going to change its name.
Oh, it's already changed.
Okay.
Yeah, the name has already changed. So the old owner of Hi-Fi Workshop retired after 50 years. He had been looking for somebody to buy it for about a year, maybe a year and a half. Nobody stepped up. I really wanted somebody to buy this shop so that I could just continue to, be a technician and work the front desk. But now I have to be a technician and work the front desk and do things like file taxes and pay rent and insurances. At this point, having taken over this, like I said, I'm trying to manage the repairs versus the sales by working on the days that I'm not open, and it's been a grind so far. But 6-7 days work weeks. But like I said, I don't mind it because I actually enjoy this work.
What is the name gonna be? What is it?
It's Heavy Rotation Hi-Fi and Records. Heavy Rotation because I wanted a name that suggested listening habits as opposed to sort of repair forward type of name. So for the last couple of places that I had worked at Hi-Fi Workshop and Stereo Hospital. Both of those imply repair, 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 and that tended to get customers who didn't really care about listening to music. Strangely, they were listening to their amp and not their music, and I really kind of want to redirect the focus. This is just a personal thing, but I kind of want to redirect the focus of this shop and this hobby back to listening to music. So, what's in your heavy rotation? What are you constantly listening to these days? And that will shift from week to week for me at least. Heavy rotation was the name that I settled on. I didn't want to make it another repair-oriented name. Plus, I think all of those are taken.
What is the most popular thing that people ask for when they come into the shop? Is there anything or a brand that people say, like, do you have any Pioneer gear from the 70s? Or what is the thing that...
I mean, if there's a specific brand that people ask for, they're Marantz.
Marantz.
People love Marantz. They love vintage Marantz. It looks cool. It sounds good. And it's just a storied name from vintage 70s hi-fi. I love working on Marantz. I mean, it's like one of the few things when I see a nice vintage Marantz receiver come through, I'm excited. I'm like, oh yeah, that's gonna be a good afternoon. But most people don't ask for brand names when they come in. They'll come in and I have a lot of customers who are kind of they're in that indeterminate middle age, right? Anywhere past 40, from 40 to 70, and they'll come in, sort of look around, and then they'll say, I'm looking for a receiver, or I have a pair of speakers. What do I power that with? Do I have to match the speaker with the receiver and vice versa? And then we'll start talking about what they have versus what they want and what they're most likely going to need. But then it all gets very subjective from that point on. I think it's more important, what you're listening to as opposed to what you're listening to on. You know, what the music is being pumped through, nobody really says, oh man, the Beatles only sound good through Marantz. No, the Beatles sound good through a handheld transistor radio, as it did back then, and it translates now.
Do you offer warranties on the gear that you sell typically?
Yeah, 90 days. 90 days, and it's usually, if something doesn't break down, and if I didn't catch something on the bench for the duration that I was repairing and listening, which is usually an hour or two, then if it doesn't happen in 90 days, and it's a strange problem that's going to need incredible troubleshooting. But yeah, 90 days, that usually sorts out any problems that I may have missed, or any problems that the customers caused. We'll see. And I never blame the customers for any mishaps, though there's some obvious ones. But you know, you should never feel guilty that you accidentally touch speaker wire together while you're removing your amp. You know, it happens. Accidents happen. That's why I'm here.
Do you sell stuff through online?
No. No. And the reason for that is shipping is brutal on these vintage pieces. I mean, a good portion of the repairs that I get are from people who've ordered things online. Terrible packaging, or maybe even good packaging, but terrible handling.
So Justin, before we head out here, I want to thank you once again for opening your doors for me to walk around here and ask questions and all that. What is the one gear? Do you have like a few customers that say, hey, if the Bose 901s come in, give me a call. I'm going to be right down there. Do you have a few customers that have a specific piece of gear that they want?
No. There's never one thing, you know, like you said, they'll ask for the 901s or the Marantz, or they want a turntable, a dual turntable or something, right? But I never get that. More modern power amps, or if they're starting to ask for DACs and things like that, I kind of tell them to you know, go online for that, because I prefer vintage audio. I prefer things with knobs and pretty lights, because as much as I like power amps like this Rotel here in the background, as much as I like that, that is kind of the last era where I think things were sounding good. But somewhere in the 90s, they took away all the fun stuff, and they took away all the controls and knobs and pretty lights, and they made it so that you could power whatever speaker you put to it, and it's boring. It's so boring, because I no longer want to play with that. I just want to turn it on and enjoy these impossible speakers to power. But when I look at an old Marantz or an old Pioneer, there's something about it that I just need to touch the knobs, and then to flick the switches and turn things and watch things respond to my touch. And it's such a tactile thing, and I think that's the thing that it got lost. Somewhere along the line, people stopped caring about the tactile experience. So now you purchase something for many, many thousands of dollars, and you get this black face or this silver face brick that sort of sits on the ground, and then you buy all these like, very expensive accessories to play pretty good speakers, I might add, but you never touch the amp, and you never touch the tone controls, and that's sad. To me, that's sad. I like to be able to have some fun with my equipment, and well, that's why I love working on vintage audio. Like I said before, I love those Marantz. When they walk into the door, I see an old Marantz receiver walk in the door. I'm like, oh, that's going to be an awesome afternoon when I repair that, because I love to play with it. And then, of course, going beyond just the front panel, when you start playing with the preamp and the circuitry in it, and it's just such a rewarding experience. But
well, thank you, Justin, and we wish you the best. I like knobs and tone controls and LEDs, so I'm in that camp with you.
Fun.
Did you have a good time, Deanna?
I had a great time. How can you not love coming in and just being surrounded by amazing equipment and just the opportunity to just enjoy, I'll call it eye candy, right? Eye candy and ear candy.
I hope you enjoyed the tour and commentary of Justin from Heavy Rotation Hi-Fi and Records, Tucson's only vintage hi-fi store. I apologize for some of the quality of the video. Next time I do this, I will do a better job of getting the items, pictures taken better. I'm going to do it a different way, so it'll look much, much better the next time I do this. I do plan on interviewing a hi-fi shop owner in a few months, and it will be a much better job as far as the video quality. I promise you that. So I do apologize for that. I do hope you enjoyed listening to this and watching it. And while it's not a huge shop, Tucson is not a huge city, but it does have a vintage hi-fi store. So, you know, it's kind of cool. And I do appreciate him taking time out of fixing things to chat with us a bit. Once again, if you liked the video, thumbs up. If you have questions or comments, you can leave them in the appropriate area, and I try to respond in a prompt manner. And as always, if you have not subscribed, I hope you will consider doing that. So once again, until next time, I hope you have a great day or night.